Is a job the same as a role? And why is this distinction becoming increasingly important in the workplace, particularly as we start to bring in business agility and evolve our organizations? Welcome to Talking HR Trends with Natal and Tom, where we look at the latest hot topics and business challenges impacting the people side of organizations. Stick around to the end for our practical top tip, and please like and subscribe so you're notified of the next video in the series. Hi Tom, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So we're looking today at this shift from kind of more rigid job structures over to a more fluid approach to how we build roles and skills. And it's seeming that this is becoming increasingly important across lots of organizations, particularly as they start to embrace business agility and look at how do they become more nimble and adaptive in their design, but also how they respond to customer needs. So what's your thoughts about this, from this sort of job roles or job structures over to a collection of project-based roles and skills? Can you talk me through what's happening here?
And I would say jobs and job structures are, in a sense, kind of Tayloristic. They were done in the time that you say, okay, let's cut up the work in different jobs. And then we can put all those jobs in a nice hierarchical structure. We some of us still know that. Huh? And of course, that creates a lot of inflexibility. Because you say, yeah, this is your job. And it's a big container of all your tasks and responsibilities. Roles, generally you could say, a job is a collection of roles, possible roles. A role is more, what are you actually going to contribute? What are you going to do? It's about clear, deliverables for the task at hand. So there are all kinds of different roles. And if you split, you could say, the things that have to be done in roles, it creates immediately more flexibility, because some roles are going to be done by a couple of persons, but also one person can do different roles. And not necessarily always the same combination of roles. Yes. So that gives you more flexibility. The next, we'll come back to that, and you know more about it than I do probably. The next layer is skills. Because then you can say, okay, what are the skills you need to do that role? So on a lower level, you can, in a sense, look at people as a collection of skills they have. Maybe 5 or 10 or 20. They have a collection of skills, and they can use those skills in different roles. And that gives you even more flexibility, because you can say, well, Tom has these set of skills at this level. How can we fit him in? Or her. Yes. So it gives you a norm, and especially in these days, as you say, there's flexibility. We're changing, I think that's a good development.
What's interesting is that it links specifically to being more customer-centric, because if you think about an organization needing to respond to changing customer needs, the idea is we need to become more fluid in the way that we kind of build our organizational design and structure. So you might need to shift a group of people or a whole team towards a new customer need, and you might need to scale down one other part. So this idea of roles and skills means you can group people together based on what is needed and the problem to solve, or the thing to deliver, as opposed to what function they're in and what kind of tasks are allocated to their actual job. So I can really see that it starts to flow into this more agile way of working in our organizations. Yeah.
And it's two sides, as you're saying. It's more client focused in a sense, but it's also you use the potential of people better, because in jobs generally, a job is, let's say, cook. You say, okay, what does a cook need to do? And there's probably different roles in a cook. It's like one role is buying goods, or one role is making recipes. One is actually the actual act of cooking. So there's different roles in a cook. you could say, well, a person who is a cook could also be very good in driving. You say, yeah, that's never on the list of the job of a cook. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. But there's also a role of someone who is going to deliver the goods or the food
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
to the homes. So, hey, I'm also a driver. So,
Yeah, no, well, I think it's because you can actually, as you're saying, pinpoint the skill development more clearly, can't you? Because if you are the cook and you're great at the recipe and cooking the food, but actually a skill you need to develop is this sort of more good business decisions about how you buy the food and your return on investment, then suddenly you can see where to actually spend time in development. So it's interesting. It actually, I agree with you, it builds out career development in a new way. What I'd like to ask before we get into that is this the end of the job framework? Because, this has been around for a long time, salary bands, career pathways, functions. Are you saying that this is now dead?
of course, it was already partly dead, you could say, because most people say, "Okay, I have a job," but the reality is already different, and nobody fits exactly in that in those jobs. So it's moving, it's not dead, but we are a little bit tied with our HR practices to those old models. Even today, most HR information systems, they immediately ask, "Okay, what is Tom's job?" And who is his boss?
Yep. And how do you link that to performance and reward and benefits? Off it goes.
So we need a new set of practices. And you see organizations like, there are organizations like that are more functioning like Holacracy, or they use other models. They are looking for new practices. But you have worked in those type of teams. I don't know what you see there.
Well, definitely looking at how you make it much more lightweight, and even quite interesting looking at mastery levels. So mastery levels linked to roles and skills, and also not linking the reward and performance always to the individual as well, and also to this system of hierarchy. Because if you think about the traditional way of doing job structures, you went up in sort of salary and importance the more managerial kind of levels you had, which actually we know now an individual contributor can make more impact to the business bottom line than all your managers put together. So the way we're working and the way organizations are structured is truly evolving. We need to move beyond that for sure.
And that's in all the different processes. So we talk about pay, but it's also development.
Development, definitely. We used to link development to career pathways, didn't we? That was linked to the job structures. Exactly. Yeah. And so on career development is, it does seem that now for people to develop a career, it should be more about experiences and getting access to different projects so you can build out those roles and skills. And it's less about climbing the ladder because we have flatter organizations anyway. So any final comments on that part of
I think it's, as you say, you see yourself as a collection of skills, of course, also with a personality and other things, but as a collection of skills. And the question is, how am I going to develop that set? And I like the word you use, mastery. So I want to become a master in this area, because if I'm a master in that area, I can do other roles.
Yes,
and often it's not one role, because you might have people who are in one team, the team leader, but in another team, they have a different role. So it also creates more flexibility. So those rigid career paths from A to B to C, and then if you work 20 years, those days are gone. I would say.
I agree. And it's a good thing too, I've decided. Yeah. Okay, thanks so much, Tom. And that takes us through to the practical tip. So from now on, I really encourage HR people to think T-shaped. So T-shaped is a breadth of experience that people can, rotate across different business scenarios and work across a whole range of business problems, but then still have some deep skills that they go into when they need to specialize on something in particular. And if you can build your T-shape, you're a more capable person. But also, if you build T-shaped teams, they're more diverse and more capable teams. So T-shape is definitely the future. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this, the Talking HR Trends with Natal and Tom, please subscribe so you get the next video in the series. Thank you.